Republic does. However, what we're feeling is the gas prices are high, diesel prices are high, and we want the commissioners to know what that fund is looking like. We never want to put a fund in a deficit position, and wanted to get your direction in where to head further. So you're going to hear from Aaron Kuhn, our Deputy Revenue Services Director. He's going to walk us through the presentation, and then please know we'll be open for questions and do our best to answer those. Aaron, turning it over to you.
Thank you. So, as Rebecca said, we're talking about the Solid Waste Fund. So I'd like to offer a little bit of some background. So the city signed a contract with Republic in early 2021 to provide refuse and recycle services to city residents. The contract with Republic Services runs through June 30th of 2026 with options for 2 additional 2-year renewals, making the maximum expiration date June 30th of 2030. Rates for the renewal periods July 1, 26 and beyond would be reviewed and approved by the commission prior to the expiration of the current contract. Currently, Republic services nearly 17,000 residential customers that receive weekly refuse pickup and biweekly recycle pickup.
Aaron, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. The windows are open because we don't turn the chillers on this early. Who knew in Michigan in April you could get 70 degrees in early April? So if the noise is too loud with the windows open, please let us know and we can shut those. I also asked AccessVision, or if you have an issue with those, let us know and we'll close them for recording purposes. Okay, thank you, Aaron.
So, as Rebecca mentioned, included in the current contract with Republic Services is a fuel surcharge. The surcharge is calculated monthly and uses the following components. The contractor's percentage of unit price for fuel, contractor's unit price, the average price per gallon of diesel, and the U.S. Department of Energy diesel fuel price for the Midwest region on the invoice dates. So when the contract with Republic Services was signed in January of 2021, the Midwest region diesel fuel price was $2.62 per gallon. For much of the rest of 2021, the diesel fuel price hovered above $3 per gallon. In the spring of 2022, diesel prices skyrocketed, reaching a peak of $5.66 per gallon in June of 22. Prices remained above $5 per gallon for 7 of the 12 months in 2022. Because of the drastic increase in the price of diesel, the fuel surcharge from Republic Services increased considerably. The fuel surcharges for the calendar year 2022 totaled nearly $300,000. So this is a graph showing the average diesel prices by month based on the U.S. Department of Energy diesel fuel price index for the Midwest region. So the top line represents 2022 average prices, the middle line 2021, and the bottom 2020.
Do they share with us what their miles per gallon is for the operation?
I don't have that statistic available.
Okay.
But
Do you think we can ask and just see if that's available?
yeah, yep.
We know how many miles, obviously, to the customers, but no, we have not asked for that, just so you know, and it isn't part of the regular reporting or the contract. It's a fair question. We certainly can pose it to Republic. We just don't have that tonight.
Someone has it somewhere there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
And a follow-up is, how many miles per day are they putting on their trucks? I mean, it's not substantial. It's not 300 miles a day. It's probably maybe 75.
Yeah, and it depends on which day and which area, which sections of the
Right.
city they are in. And, you know, some would probably represent more miles in a day than others, but certainly is information that we can ask for.
Right. And they're coming from Kalamazoo, right?
It depends. It's my understanding the recycle trucks come from Kalamazoo only, not the garbage.
So this is a graphic representation of our fuel surcharge from Republic by month from January 2022 to the current date. As you can see, we reached a peak of $29,800, nearly $30,000 in July of 2022. So what's the issue? Because of the unanticipated rise in fuel costs, there's been an extraordinary strain on the fund balance of the city's solid waste fund. The solid waste fund incurred a loss of $179,774 for the year ended June 30th of 22. Net working capital totaled just a little over 200, which is current assets minus current liabilities, totaled a little over 241,000 at June 30th, 22, with cash investments totaling zero as of that same date. Estimates for fiscal year 23 are projecting a loss of between $250,000 and $300,000. So this means that the city is not currently collecting enough revenue to cover its cost. And not only should we be collecting enough revenue to cover expenses, there's also a need to rebuild fund balance in the solid waste fund to make it sustainable in the long term. So what have we done so far? We've changed payroll allocations of some employees being charged to the fund to remove as much administrative costs from the fund as is reasonable. This will result in a savings of approximately $30,000 per year. So we'd like to offer you 3 proposed solutions. Solution number 1 is to use ARPA funding to cover the shortfall through the end of the city's fiscal year that ends June 30th of 23, then beginning on July 1, 23, to adjust rates to $24.85 for curbside regular instead of the current projected rate of $21.48. This would lead to the customer paying an additional $121 over the remaining life of the contract that ends on June 30th, 2026, or 3 years. Proposed solution number 2 is to use ARPA funding to cover the shortfall through the end of the city's fiscal year that ends on June 30th, 23. Use ARPA funding to cover any potential shortfall for fiscal year 24, and then adjust rates beginning on July 1, 24 to $25.71 for curbside regular instead of the current projected rate of $22.34. This would lead to the customer paying an additional $80.60 over the remaining life of the contract, which ends on June 30th of 26, or 2 years. Proposed solution number 3 is to use ARPA funding and the city's general fund to cover the shortfall over the remaining life of the contract that ends on June 30th of 26. Since any potential shortfall will be absorbed by the city, there will be no impact to residents over that time.
Can you break that down at all and tell me how much of that is the ARPA funding, what that dollar amount is, and how much would be the city's general fund?
I don't have a specific number in front of me right now, but so for the current fiscal year, we would be looking at $250,000 to $300,000, and our analysis is based on worst case scenario. So we started with a $30,000 fuel surcharge number and increased that by 5% over the life of the contract. I mean, so we would be roughly, all else aside, probably looking at $300,000 to $400,000 a year, worst case.
So, but we know how much ARPA funds we're able to dedicate to this, correct? Can you give me that number?
I'm not sure that I follow.
I think
So we're using 2 sources of funding on proposed
Yeah,
solution 3,
yeah,
ARPA funds.
yeah. Oh,
That's a limited
yeah,
pot of money.
yeah.
I'm just wondering how much that is we're dedicating toward that.
So, I mean, it would be $250,000 to $300,000 in the current year. Plus, I mean, we would potentially look to use it, you know, until we don't have any more left, until all the ARPA funds are expended. I mean, projecting out 2 years, I mean, is a little bit of a crapshoot. But, you know, it's probably $250,000 to $300,000 a year of ARPA funds until those are exhausted. And do I have a breakdown of how much we have available to spend? on lost revenue. I don't, but
Okay, well, maybe the city manager
Yeah.
is able to,
I can
Help
try.
us with those
He's
numbers.
right. We're
Yeah.
probably projecting in that, to get us to the end of the contract 2026, it'll probably be $300,000, $400,000 a year. What we'd have to do is, each time we prepare the budget, we would say, okay, what general fund can we provide, or what ARPA funds we can provide?
Okay.
In my opinion, it should be all ARPA funds until we do not have that, to give the general fund relief. It's not a problem, but what we will be presented with then at the end of June 26 is, what are we going to do for the contract? And by then, ARPA funds, we will almost be done, because there's a time frame on the ARPA dollars. So we don't want to build something the general fund can't support beyond the ARPA dollars. So then we would have to talk about, okay, this is what the general fund would need beyond June of 2026 to cover these differences, or we will have to look at increasing rates July 1 of 2026. Did
understand.
that make sense? Okay. Did I answer your question?
You did,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So the goal is to spend all ARPA funds and lessen the impact on the general fund.
Yes.
absolutely.
That's-
Yes, yeah.
And so just so that I understand, I mean, we're looking at about $1 million roughly over the course of the 3 years left on this contract. Is that
Rounded.
correct?
If you did 300,000 for the 3 years, yep, it probably is pushing a little bit over that,
Okay.
especially if we're in the $400,000 range, and we do not know what fuel prices are going to do either.
Right.
And that's a question I have. If fuel prices reduce, then that's just money that the city is going to save and not need to pass along to residents. Is that correct?
Generally speaking, if the fuel charges were to go down, then we wouldn't be out the 300 or 400,000 annually. It would be adjusted. I cannot foresee that it would be
I
completely.
mean, it's all in-house. It's not like we're giving it to Republic and then wanting it back.
Well, we have to pay Republic
We
because that's
do.
part of their contract.
Yeah.
So this is how we are, I mean, these are the solutions we're proposing for the commissioners to consider. But yes, those would be adjusted as fuel rates change. We've got a pretty nifty little calculator that's built in, and right now it's just plugged in at current rates.
Right, because we haven't seen much of a decrease in
No.
diesel, but we've seen a decrease in regular fuel,
It-
or gasoline, I should say.
Yes.
It's trending down a little bit, but, I mean, still.
see that.
Well above 2021 numbers.
60 cents or so, yeah.
When is this
Thank you.
payment made to Republic? Is it quarterly, weekly?
It's monthly.
Okay.
It's an item on our monthly invoice from Republic.
So technically, like what Commissioner Ballard's saying, say 6 months down the road, there's like drop in fuel prices, it could save us over time without spending the whole, we don't have to put the whole ARPA funds up.
Certainly. It's
Yeah,
a
I think that's
pay
what
as you
you're
go.
looking for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Thank you.
thought he was going.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we're looking to break even.
Yes, no,
Yep.
the least impact possible, but I think that's what we're trying to figure out is when do we need the funds available to pay them, and the answer is monthly.
Yep.
So we could forecast down the road, 6 months, maybe we start seeing a decrease in fuel prices. I'm no expert in fuel prices, but that would help over time cut the bill down, so thank you
Sure.
for the answer.
I think, kind of at this moment in time is we are nearing the end of our fiscal year. And so what we're trying to do is better understand what do we need to include in the solid waste fund for our fiscal year '24 budget. Do we have to budget use of ARPA funds in that amount, a combination of ARPA general, or are we going to adjust rates that July 1 of 2023 to help absorb these fuel surcharges?
Rebecca, are there any other charges that we use the solid waste fund for in the past that we may need to have additional reserves?
I'm trying to think, Kurt, you're probably better about expenditures that come out of there. Some of the educational,
The education, the recycling events, we use cleanup, city cleanup.
so like Clean the Kazoo, or when we do the trail cleanup, we do the water resources symposium, yeah.
Pretty minimal.
It is.
Does a great job getting sponsors to help
No, I agree. I've been to events and they have really nice sponsors covering a lot of the cost for that, T-shirts and advertisement and stuff like that. So it's good that we have.
And that's our goal too. And a lot
Yeah.
of times we'll partner with the county on those events.
Is there like an emergency fund if there's say, a disaster that comes out of this fund for material, or, you know what I mean? If like there's something that was more drastic for disposal that needed to be cleaned up, is there some type of,
Yeah, if there was like a environmental spill, we wouldn't, where the fund is right now, we would not be able to cover.
but it comes out of that fund?
Could.
I think that's what the answer we're looking for. Okay, no, it's just, yeah.
It could, but there are other funds. Depending on, I don't like to say it, depending on the disaster, then we get together and determine what funds are needed. Because oftentimes we can, request money from the state or the feds, depending on what type of emergency that we may have, or look at other funds that we have in the city for emergency purposes.
But for like a short-term funding, that would probably come out of the fund, like if we needed a quick, yeah, no, I'm
Yes.
understanding this. Yeah, it's nothing, this is how the planning works. This is how we make sure that we stay ahead of everything. I totally agree.
So you're looking for input from each of us then, to come up with a consensus, with the proposals?
Yes, Commissioner, please. Or is there something that we didn't think of? These were the three solutions that we kind of came up with as staff as potentials. But if if there's something that you're thinking that we didn't put in a solution, please let us know. Or, what we need to, kind of your direction and guidance.
All right, so with that being said, does the commission wish to give us an idea of what proposal you're looking at? You want to start with the vice mayor and we'll go this way?
Okay.
We'll start with Chris Simmons and go this way.
Okay. So, I wish I could go to my employer and say, gas prices have gone up, and I'm adding a surcharge onto my salary so I can come to work every day. I don't have that in my contract, so like Republic does. But our residents have been feeling this pain as well. You mentioned the pain at the pump, not just the pain at the pump, the pain at the grocery store, every area that we spend money nowadays with the rampant inflation. And I've heard numbers of 7 to 8%. Go to the grocery store, the people you talk to, it's 20, 30%. Also, I just got my property tax assessment recently, within the last month or so, going up a full 5%, the maximum that the law allows in the state of Michigan. So I believe this is just an area during the remainder of this contract, if the city can use, and that's a fantastic use of ARPA funds. I've seen a lot of ARPA funds, not talking about in our city, but a lot of ARPA funds go for things that are less than ideal. This is something that eases the burden, would ease the burden for all of our residents. We recently discharged some water bills from a selected amount of residents. Wish we could do more of this, easing the burden for everyone. So I would lean towards proposed solution number 3, and we'll deal with it in 2026 when we're up for the contract renewal. Might have to have increases then, but for the remainder of this contract, I'd like to see us not pass that along to our residents.
Thank you.
I support proposal 3.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Chris. Any other comments from Commissioner Ballard?
Yeah, I think we're going to answer for it in 2026 if we go out that far. I really like proposal 2, which is a little bit of a using the ARPA funds a little bit, but then starting in July for the next fiscal year to increase it. I think it's $2 and some odd cents, maybe $3. It's going to be a little easier, I do believe, than to get a bump of $6 or $8, whatever it is, come 2026. So my favor is number 2.
Commissioner Morris?
I'm in favor of proposal 3. I do agree with Commissioner Ballard that we should roll this out before 2026 comes. I think that if we informed our residents of potential changes in 2026 and prepared them for a higher bill after that time, I think that was something that we could work with.
I do have one more question, I'm sorry. what would be the projected rate increase, or is that going to be determined by the next contract if we did the, say we did number 3 and 26 came, what would be the impact of that increase of the bill? Because I mean, I see 2 of them in here for proposal 1 and 2, an increase, and then the third one's just, yeah, we'll make it to the next.
My experience in dealing with Republic in a previous role is that they'll come to us, 6 months before the end of the contract with some proposed rates for the upcoming renewal period. To project what those are is difficult to say.
Okay.
I mean, I think they're going to take into account fuel prices at the time as well when they come with proposed rates.
I'm almost thinking of like a hybrid between 2 and 3. I know we were talking about, and sorry for my other commissioners, they spoke up, but if we did 2 and stayed that way and possibly, use the ARPA funds for a full year and see what the rates, if they would early negotiate what the pricing was, maybe use the existing ARPA funds to make it into 3, depending on that, but a $2, like $3 increase would be easing us getting ready for the next contract period, which is only another year away to have that price increase. So if I'm forced to make a decision right now, I prefer 2 with the possibility of using more ARPA funds depending on what goes on in the future. I mean, it's kind of a hybrid just to get us out of what we're in right now.
Sure.
So I'm sorry if that confused everybody, but
No.
yeah.
Certainly understand. Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Vice Mayor?
So, as I listen to the conversation here, I certainly appreciate what Commissioner Simmons has said. I mean, you hear it all the time, and none of us are immune to the to the effects of inflation. I also appreciate what Commissioner Ballard said. It's going to be a huge shock if somebody's garbage bill goes up, $6 or $7 at the end of all of this. And I like what Commissioner O'Donnell said, which is there some sort of a happy medium between 2 and 3? I don't know that there is. I mean, 2 seems to be the medium between 1 and 3. So
Right.
I don't know how you split that up even more. So I guess my preference would be probably solution 3, and then we'll just have to deal with a larger increase at the end of the day.
Just a point of clarification. This is a worst-case scenario. You're projecting prices now and a annual increase, I think you said of 5%?
Yes.
Okay, so it may so say we went with proposal 2, that automatically would implement this rate increase even if that doesn't come to fruition, the actual worst-case scenario, correct?
That's true.
So I guess
So-
that would be another negative about 2 for me, that we're charging people on something we don't even know, worst-case scenario.
Right. It's hard to project out. And so, as the numbers people, the finance people, we kind of have to look at worst-case scenario.
Sure.
So, we tend to budget more aggressively on the expense side, more worst-case scenario, and ultra conservatively on the revenue side as well. So, we build ourselves in a little bit of buffer. But yeah, it does take, $30,000 a month and extrapolates it out over the remaining life of the contract.
So it's not, let me understand this, say we opted for 3, get to the end of this, it's not necessarily a guarantee that everyone's bills are going to jump by $6, $8, $10. It could, depending on.
It could, yes.
It could, or it could also stay
could-
pretty level.
It could also, stay
Okay.
flat.
Okay.
So depending on where inflation is at,
Sure, thank you.
3 years from now.
Okay, a couple of things that I just want to say. The fuel surcharge is only supposed to take care of that portion of the increase in fuel for our vendor. Having a little experience at these, a lot of times they're not as sustainable on the vendor side as they should be, and they profited a little bit more. So you can double check the system, and they will allow you to find out if they're making more money than what they should. I'm not saying that they are, but we want to make sure that they're not losing money, but they're not overcharging us with their fuel surcharge.
Sure.
And we want to do the same thing with the taxpayers. We don't want to undercharge them, as we're doing now, and then overcharge them because our vendor's not charging us the right amount. With all that being said, I go with solution number 3. However, we need to make certain that we have the right fuel surcharge program in place. I would think at some point in time, the maximum amount will be what the highest price has been charged to us here in the last year, and that was about $30,000 a month. I don't see prices going above that, but if I could predict it, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. Another thing to look at, 20 years from now, we'll probably have electric garbage trucks, and there won't be a fuel surcharge, but maybe it'll cost more because of the expense of the trucks. So.
Sure.
Bottom line, the citizens are still getting a pretty good deal for the transportation of their garbage, unlimited amount of garbage on a weekly basis, and then some extras during the spring cleanup, and I think we have a fall cleanup too. So it's a good deal. It keeps our community clean. And I just wish that all residents understood how the program operates. I think there's a real significant lack of knowledge of what the system can really do in a neighborhood.
I forgot, I neglected to mention the nice work that Patty Malouche has done in compiling this table of what other municipalities do with solid waste.
Yeah,
And-
we're unlimited, and most people are only at 96 gallons.
We're the only community that's unlimited.
That's good.
We discuss it all the time. I mean, probably that unlimited bulk pickup is the biggest area that we feel, both on the vendor side and on the city side. And we have held firm for a variety of reasons why that's important, unlimited bulk, even when the vendors are like, nobody else is doing it, and it's very expensive for us to do. But there are reasons why we have that. But Mayor, I appreciate what you said, because I don't think it's understood out there what unlimited is. You can put it at the curb, but there are some things, for example, mattresses, we get asked all the time. They have to be put into plastic. And there are a few other nuances, but all of that information, they can call in to us, they can email, it's all on our website. Republic has a Battle Creek page. If somebody's wondering, what do you mean I have unlimited? What do I have to do for that? And so we do, so as you look at our comparison, that is right. We are the only municipality in the Southwest Michigan that offers the unlimited. And we're often asked by staff and the vendor to think differently about that. We just haven't done that.
Congratulations.
I have 2 questions.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Follow up on that. Do we have enough ARPA funds to cover us for 3 years?
Yes, in that amount, we do.
Okay. And 2, I would really, I think, plead with you to keep unlimited, because otherwise we end up with trash being thrown in undesirable areas. And I think we're going to talk about it tonight in one particular area. And it's just going to get worse if we see something like that. So.
One thing about Rebecca and her administration, she's been able to send crews out when it is dumped in some areas in the city. And I applaud her for doing that, because she could say, Mark, we just don't have the resources. But she understands that the more you allow that to be dumped on side roads, the more it's going to increase.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? David, you ready for public comment? All right. You have 3 minutes.
Too bad the price is going to have to go up, and it's going to make it hard on businesses, and people's got to cut their budgets. People can't keep up to their budgets now. There's a lot of things that we're going to have to consider here. It's not going to... Well, important things got to come first, I guess. I have to agree. I don't support this, but if it comes to a point, what can we do? Okay.
Thank you, David. Any other public comments? Well, just so I'm sure everyone saw the press release from last week, the administration did pay $806,000 worth of water and sewer and garbage bills, which is substantial. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to conclude our workshop. Yes.
Mayor, I have just one more comment. I want to make sure that David and possibly other people out there understand that if we go with Proposal 3, you're not getting an increase. You mentioned that you thought that prices go up, we have to do that, but under Proposal 3, you're not going to get an increase, David. Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, we're going to adjourn, and we're going to have a meeting in 50 minutes. Thank you.